Hey guys, for this video, make sure that you have your creating equations practiced open up. It's linked right here on Google Classroom. I have the steps that are included in the notes. That way you can look directly at your assignment and see the steps instead of having to go back through the notes and back through the video. There's a total of 4 problems. We're going to go over the first 3 together, and then I'll give you some hints for number 4. Because word problems are a little bit harder, I'm providing more direct support for this practice assignment. Okay, so starting with number 1, Rashida makes $9.86 per hour. She is saving up to buy custom Nike shoes, which will cost a total of $80. Not too bad for custom shoes. Write an equation that will help Rashida calculate how many hours she will have to work until she has enough money to buy her shoes. So this is telling me how to set up my equation. I need to figure out how many hours she has to work until her paycheck is enough to buy her shoes. All right, so the first thing that I need to do after I've set up my equation is find the variable. The variable is going to be like the thing that changes, and you're going to look for red flag words like per or every. That's a pretty big hint that that's the variable. So Rashida makes $9.86 per hour. Okay, so the number that changes would be hours. She could work 1 hour, she could work 10 hours. The variable is not this $9.86. She can't change how much she gets paid. All right, but she can change the number of hours she works, right? Okay, so I know I'm going to have my variable be hours. I'm just going to shorten that up to H. H stands for hours. All right, next thing I need to do is look for my coefficient, or the number attached to the variable. And the number attached to the variable is this $9.86. If she worked 2 hours, I would just take 2 times 986. If she worked 10 hours, I would take 10 times 986. All right, so I know that I'm going to be taking this $9.86 times hours to figure out her paycheck. And remember, her paycheck has to be equal to the cost of her shoes. Equal or more. All right, next thing you need to do is look for a total. It might not always have one. All right, so let's go ahead and scan through our problem right here. $9 per hour, custom shoes. That will cost a total, perfect, of $80. So I'm just going to erase this cost of shoes because I know what that total cost of shoes is. It's $80. So I'm just going to replace that with 80. All right, last thing you need to do, look for a constant number that might add or take away from the total, and there might not always be one. So look through the rest of your problem, see if there is any other numbers or piece of information you need to add to your equation. We don't have anything in this case, so here's our answer for number 1. $9.86 times hours equals 80. Okay. Number 2. This is actually a real-life scenario where I used solving for x. I thought I was going to go to Los Angeles, California with 4 of my friends the day after we graduated from high school. We almost got there, except for the fact that one friend backed out, and so we had to cancel the whole trip because we couldn't afford it anymore. So this is a real-life scenario that I now get to use in topics of math, so it wasn't totally wasted. All right, Amanda is planning a trip, and her car can drive a total of 300 miles per tank of gas. She's planning to drive to Los Angeles, California, which is a total of 1,900 miles away from Buffalo, Minnesota. True story. Write an equation to represent how many times she will have to fill up her tank. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out number of times, or number of tanks that I'm going to be filling up throughout my trip. And my trip is measured in miles. Okay. So number of tanks that I'm filling up. And I need to go at least 1,900 miles of my trip. All right, so first thing you want to do is look for your variable. Look for red flag words like per and every. Okay, I'm planning a trip. Drives a total of 300 miles per. Okay, so my variable is tanks of gas. I'm just going to represent that with T. All right, now my coefficient is the number attached to the variable. In this case, it's this 300 miles. I can change how many tanks of gas I put into my car. I could put 1 tank of gas, I could put 5 tanks of gas. I can't change the fact that I can drive a total of 300 miles on a tank of gas. So that's going to be my coefficient. If I only filled up my car, or put 1 tank of gas in my car, I would take 1 times 300 miles. I'm only going 300 miles if I put 1 tank of gas in. If I put 2 tanks in, I would take 2 times 300, and I would have 600 miles total. Okay, so I know that somewhere in my equation, I'm going to be putting in 300 times T, tanks of gas. And I want that to be equal to the number of miles that I want to travel for my trip. Okay, so step 3, look for our total. Oh, we already kind of hinted towards that. I need to drive a total of 1,900 miles. So now that I know the number of miles that I need to travel for my trip, I'm going to erase it. Put this 1,900 miles in. And there we go. I have an equation that represents how many times I'd have to fill up my tank of gas. Last step, let's just make sure there's not a constant number that might add or take away from that total. And it looks like there's not any other additional information. So this would be your equation. All right. Now, if you're catching on, if you've done school before and done school well, you'll kind of start to realize that we have done 2 problems where we haven't done step number 4. I bet this number 3 is going to involve step number 4. You are exactly correct. So get ready for step number 4 in this one. Mateo takes a yoga class at the gym, and it costs $10 per class to attend a class. Mateo also needs to buy a yoga mat, which will cost him $15 one time. So he needs to buy that yoga mat just one time. He can use it as many times as he would like, whether he goes to 1 class, 10 classes, or 1,000 classes. Write an equation that will calculate the total cost of Mateo's yoga class. Okay, so I am looking for total cost. All right. And then the rest of this, I got to figure it out. So I am looking for the total cost. I have to figure out an equation that would represent his total cost. So the first thing I need to do is look for a variable. Look for words like per and every, and it looks like it costs $10 per class. And that's the variable because he can change how many classes he goes to. He can't change the cost of that class though. So the $10 is the coefficient, the class is the variable. We're going to go ahead and shorten that up to C. So if he goes to 1 class, it'd be $10. If he went to 3 classes, it'd be $30, right? So I know I'm going to be taking 10, oops, forgot the 1, times C somewhere in my equation. All right, let's look to see if there is a total. And in this case, there's not a total. That's what I'm looking for or trying to calculate. Okay, so there's no total. Now we need to look for a constant number that might add or take away from the total. And there might not always be one. In this case, there is. If we keep reading our problem, it says he needs to buy a yoga mat, which will cost him $15. He just needs to buy that yoga mat or spend that $15 once, and then he could use it for each and every class that he takes. Okay, so this would be adding to his total cost, right? He has the cost per class, and then he has to spend another $15. So because he is adding to the cost, we're going to go ahead and put plus, and he's adding a total of $15. to his total cost because he has to buy a yoga mat one time, plus he has to pay $10 per class. All right, and like I said, there is no total for this one. They might not always have a total. This would be an example of when you wouldn't have a total. Okay, so your answer could just be this 10C plus 15. You don't have to say equals total. That's fine. All right, you're going to do number 4 by yourself. We're going to read through it together. I'm going to give you some hints on the variable and coefficient, total, and constant number, just to help you out since these word problems are kind of hard. David works for a food delivery service. He gets paid $10.44 per delivery. So the variable is this delivery. He could do 1 delivery or 1,000 deliveries. That's the part that could change. So I'm just going to write D for delivery. The part he cannot change is the fact that he gets paid $10.44 per delivery. So that's your coefficient. So you know somewhere in your equation, you're probably going to be taking 1044 times D for deliveries. But he usually spends $26 at the end of the night in order to put gas in his car. I'm not quite sure if this is a total or a constant number yet. I'm going to go ahead and look at the rest of this problem, kind of figure it out. Write an equation that represents how much money David has after a night of working. Oh, so I am looking for his total money left over at the end of the night after one night of work. Okay, so I am going to take this 26. Because I'm looking for the total, I don't know the total yet. I know that this 26 is the constant number that's going to be adding or taking away from the total. Because he's spending $26, like he's getting paid $10.44 per delivery, then he has to take away 26 of that dollars to put gas in his car that night. This one is going to be a minus. Okay, so hopefully that is enough to help you get started for number 4. If you have any questions, you can pop back into that scheduled Google Meet, or you can call, text, email, whatever works best for you.